A couple of years back, if you were to buy a sub $200 smartphone, you wouldn't really get much. Performance would be terrible, build quality would have been unbearable, and the touchscreen would have been nearly unusable. Lately, however, things have changed. I'm Soham Adwani from Tech in Asia, and this is Motorola's Moto G. The first thing you'll notice about the Moto G is the build quality. From the moment you pick it up, you'll be convinced that this phone is worth even more than its price tag. Everything about the design of the phone, from the way it fits snugly in your hand to the comfortable, soft touch material on the back, gives it a premium feel. It's heavier than most phones, but it's not the bad kind of heavy. It feels solid and well built. The size of the phone is similar to that of the iPhone 5, but because the screen is 4.5 inches and the bezels are so slim, it feels more immersive. The back of the device is removable, and Motorola has 7 different colors of shells you can choose from, which retail for about 104,000 each on Lazada. Although the back of the device is removable, you can't really swap out the battery, and although many people may have a problem with that, I personally, on heavy usage, never managed to kill this phone, so it's safe to say that the battery is pretty strong. The display on the Moto G is one of the best in its class. While it's not 1080p, the 720p display comes in at 329 pixels per inch and is clear and crisp for most things. That is, when you have nothing to compare it to. Put it side by side with the 3-year-old Samsung Galaxy Nexus, which has the same resolution at a lower PPI due to the larger size, and you can see that the colors on the Moto G look muted and less saturated. The Moto G is equipped with a 4.5-inch 720p HD LCD display, a 5-megapixel shooter, a quad-core Snapdragon 400 processor, 1GB of RAM, and dual SIM support. Motorola is also throwing in 50GB of Google Drive storage, which is valid for 2 years. Performance on the Moto G is stellar. That's partly due to the quad-core Snapdragon chip and partly due to Google's emphasis on smoothness in Android 4.4. Apps open quickly, games run well, and you can even multitask as much as you like. I did get some forced closes here and there, running games like Dead Trigger, but for everyday tasks it just flies. It doesn't even overheat at all. Loading web pages is smooth. Compared to competing offerings from Samsung and HTC, the Moto G does tasks like opening apps and loading web pages much quicker. All of this can be attributed to the fact that Moto G runs stock Android, whereas these other phones tend to run custom interfaces like HTC Sense or Samsung's TouchWiz. The biggest downfall, however, of the Moto G is its camera. It may be a 5-megapixel camera, but it doesn't work like one. It's slow to capture images, mostly all the colors are wrong, and you can never seem to focus properly. There was a time when Motorola was the dominant force in the phone market. Nowadays, however, technology has moved so quickly that they've been all but forgotten. It makes sense that Motorola didn't choose to re-enter the Indonesian market with the Moto X, because its price would make it a harder sell. At the other end of the spectrum, the insanely cheap Moto E would perhaps give people the wrong impression that it's a bargain basement phone with major issues. The Moto G sits perfectly in between the two, and in this market, in terms of price and performance, even better than most phones in high price ranges. Don't get me wrong though, the Moto G is a compromised phone. But of all the compromised phones, this one would be the best.